Hello, my Berry Aftercare friends, and welcome to this episode of Berry Aftercare, the podcast. I'm excited about this topic. I'm always excited about the topics, but I like the title. So, the title of this topic is What does emotional toughness for young athletes have to do with your life as a post op? Let me tell you how I came to settle on this topic, which actually is likely going to be a two-part series because as I made my notes for the podcast episode, it got kind of long. So I thought, well, we'll go ahead and see how this goes and see where I'm at when I'm about halfway through the information that I have. So the reason I chose this as our topic is because I've been reading a book called Mental Toughness for Young Athletes, a book by Moses and Troy Horne. I've been reading this to my grandsons, who are both very involved in sports, particularly baseball. Now, they are both pretty gifted baseball players, and if you have seen my family members, you can pretty much guess they're very small little people for their age. So while they're very good, they have an obstacle to overcome, and that obstacle is their height because they're playing with kids who are a lot bigger than they are at the same ages. And so I'm reading to them this book about mental toughness because no matter what sport you play or what endeavors you go on in life, sometimes we have some insecurities related to it, or sometimes we have to develop some skills to help us when the going gets tough. Now, if that doesn't sound like a bariatric patient, I don't know what does. This is not something you've ever done before, chosen to have weight loss surgery and learning to live the lifestyle of a post-op, the gotta do-ums. And sometimes there are some insecurities that get in the way that may be related to prior attempts to lose weight or times when you have lost weight and yet you regain some or all of that weight. So there may be some, mental issues. I don't mean like mental health, crazy kinds of things, what we would refer to as crazy. And trust me, I'm not calling anyone crazy. If anybody's crazy, it might be me. But we've all struggled with some mental health issues, which does not make us crazy. And I know that can be a trigger word for some people, so I apologize for even using that word in my podcast. But a lot of us struggle with histories of depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder or obsessive compulsive disorder, whatever it might be. So some of us have those histories, and we layer those on to our new endeavors, whatever those may be, in this case, living a healthy post-op life. We need to develop some mental toughness. And as I've been reading this book out loud to the boys, we just do little bits at a time, I'm like, my gosh, this is so much of what we talk about in the Berry Aftercare program. And let me tell you something, if you're not part of Berry Aftercare, I just want to chew you out just a little bit because this is a program for people who are serious about making long-term lifestyle changes. It is inexpensive, and I cannot think of another program out there that has as much information. We cover so many aspects of life. We go beyond bariatrics. We have a core group of 5 or 6 people who put their time and energy and effort into sharing what they do to have a healthy post-op successful life. And I put a lot of information in there for helping your mind, your body, your spirit. So if you're not part of the program on Facebook, I would encourage you to check it out, www.berryaftercare.com. In the meantime, let's talk about how this book, Mental Toughness for Young Athletes, is so relevant to anybody who's struggling with weight loss or trying to maintain weight loss, whether you've had surgery or not. I love it. So over the course of the next couple of episodes, we're going to talk about what exactly are we referring to, or what is the author of this book, Mental Toughness. What does he mean by mental toughness? And this book is written for kids like 8 to 15. And it's so relevant, you're going to be amazed. So what does mental toughness mean for these young athletes for whom he's writing, and for you as bariatric patients? What are the 6 core topics I'm going to cover? He talks about more, but I think there's 6 of these topics in the book that are really relevant to post-ops. So what are these 6 core topics that the author suggests that athletes use to develop mental toughness, and how are these pertinent to your life as a bariatric patient? Then in the next episode, we're going to go over some 5 to 10 minute exercises that you can use in relation to these core topics that we'll bring up to increase your mental toughness, and how that will help you sustain your weight loss, maybe lose more weight if that's something that you need to do to improve your health, and how to live your best life as a post-op. And as always, I want to remind you that the effort you put into something really indicates your level of interest in that something. I always end my podcasts and most of the things that I do with, it's your health, it's your life, what you do is your business this day and every day, right? It's your health, your responsibility this day and every day. How much effort you put into maintaining or improving your health really shows your level of interest in doing so. So if you're talking about, I want to live my best life, whether that's in relation to your weight or in relation to following some travel dreams you have, or career aspirations, or whatever goals that you have for yourself, your level of effort that you put into that interest really tells the tale. So I'm going to encourage you to give some thought to, does the level of effort I put into maintaining my weight loss and building a really great life for myself match the level of interest you say you have? If you're putting forth a lot of effort, then I'm going to say, yep, your effort matches your interest. But if you're talking a good game, but you're not doing anything to get there, we're going to have to look at maybe increasing your mental toughness, which is what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and get started with the main content. So what does mental toughness mean for the athletes and for bariatric patients? Before we get into that, I want to talk about the preface from this book and what the authors talk about. And this is so critical, and you will absolutely relate to this as a bariatric patient. They talk about allowing failure. And in my many, many years of working with bariatric patients, I hear so much about how people believe that they struggle with failure. And if you're, depending on how you're defining failure and what that means to you emotionally, it can take on a lot of ability to set you back in terms of your effort. However you're defining failure for yourself, these authors and I also encourage you to allow failure. And I'm going to go a step further and say, give yourself permission to fail. Now, that doesn't mean, it's okay for me to gain all my weight back, and along with that, all the health comorbidities that I had. It means don't expect perfection in following through with the guided doings. Don't expect perfection in how often you exercise. Don't expect perfection in getting in the grams of protein and water that you need to get in every day. Allow failure. And they also make the point that Instagram and TikTok and most of the social media only show what they refer to as the makes. Making the shot, making, the strike in bowling, making the home run, making things look like they're great. So if you're looking at social media and you're focused only on the people who make it look like post bariatric life is easy, or make it look like, oh, I do anything I want, I maintain my weight loss, that's a fairy tale. Okay, that doesn't really happen. So if you're comparing yourself to people who make it look easier or look like they're doing it perfectly and effortlessly, you got to be careful about that. You have to look at people who are being genuine, who are showing their failure, but also saying it's okay to fail, but not if it's an everyday kind of thing. As long as I'm putting forth effort to correct what I'm referring to as a failure, then I'm going to give myself lots of permission to do that, because that's an opportunity to learn what went wrong and to correct that. So from the book, Moses and Troy Horne talk about, I'm going to give a lot of sports analogies, and then I'm going to bring it right back to bariatric world. Almost everybody in the world knows who Kobe Bryant was, right? An amazing basketball player, one of the greatest on the planet to ever live. So they talk about how Kobe Bryant shot an air ball on live TV in a championship game. It's like, oh my God, somebody like Kobe Bryant with that level of talent and that, those amazing statistics, somebody we consider to be the greatest of the great. My God, he shot an air ball on national TV. Not only did that happen, that particular game in this championship series went into overtime. And during overtime, Kobe Bryant shot 3 more air balls, which made a total of 4 air balls in one championship game. They didn't win that game. And they didn't win the championship that season. And the authors focus in on the key words here were they didn't win the championship that season. That season. That does not mean that Kobe Bryant was a failure. Quite the opposite. Jerry West, who was the general manager of the Lakers at that time, he said this about Kobe. He was fearless. I think that's one of the things that spurred him to greatness. He wasn't going to allow himself to fail. Well, the author says Jerry West almost got it right. You see, the thing that made Kobe fearless was that he was going to allow himself to fail. Because when he made an air ball, or when he made those 4 in that game, what people like Kobe Bryant do is they assess the situation and they get right back on it. In fact, so many professional athletes will say that after a game like that, they don't go out with the guys. They don't go drown themselves in anything unhealthy. They get back to the gym right after the game. So the thing these authors were saying is that if we allow ourselves to learn from failure, then we're using it the way failure is intended to be used. Because, hello, find me anybody on the planet making any kind of endeavor who's not going to fail in some big and or small ways. That is not the issue. So I want you to pause right now. I'm going to shut up for about 10 seconds. Woohoo! And I want you to say to yourself, I give myself permission to fail and to learn from my failures. I give myself permission to fail and to learn from my failures, because that is what the gift in air quotes failure is. So the problem with failure, and this is again according to the authors of the book Mental Toughness for Young Athletes, is that we think it's a problem. We think, oh my gosh, here I go, I failed again. And how many times have you or I or many people in the bariatric world, not just the bariatric world, but those struggling with, trying to get an advanced degree or in medical school, or trying to get a job promotion, or trying to take an exam for a certificate of some sort. How many times do we beat up on ourselves because we failed something? It may have been the entire course, or it may have been just a small aspect of whatever it is we're trying to do. But we think that's a problem, when the truth is failure can be a gift if you're willing to look at it as that. Because when we make mistakes, or when we deem ourselves to have failed at something, what we can do is we can change the circumstances. We can change. Remember how thoughts are related to feelings, and how thoughts and feelings are related to behavior? So if we change our thought from, wow, that sucked, I failed, to what can I learn from that to get a better outcome moving forward? So if you learn to say, woohoo, look at me, I failed, woohoo, do a happy dance. Say, I'm going to turn this into a learning opportunity for myself, and I'm going to pick it up tomorrow, and I'm going to implement something new that I learned. Every successful person that you meet, and the authors talk about this in this book, tells anybody who's going to listen to them that their greatest gift, according to these authors, is that they learned to fail. They had to fail often, fail forward, and fail fast, and learn from it. So the authors of Mental Toughness for Young Athletes talks about a different book called Outliers by an author named Malcolm Gladwell, who talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Check this out. Seriously, 10,000 hour rule. And the 10,000, not 10 hours, not 10 minutes, 10,000 hours. This rule says that most of the people who went on to dominate in their sport had practiced their craft for approximately, you know what's coming, 10,000 hours. Anders Ericsson came along and wrote that it needed to be 10,000 hours of what he calls deliberate practice. That means that you not only need to work on a skill for 10,000 hours, you also need to be really specific about what you're doing when you practice. You have to be focused. So maybe I'm going to work on free throws. Maybe I'm going to work on batting. Maybe I'm going to work on where my shoulders are in relation to when I swing a bat. I don't know much about sports. When it comes to bariatrics, what's the 10,000 hour rule? I'm going to spend 10,000 hours, part of which I'm going to focus on figuring out how to get in protein before I eat anything else and get in enough grams for the day. Part of that 10,000 hours is going to be focused on making sure I get enough sleep and how to readjust my sleep schedule so that I get the optimal amount of sleep that I need. Some of that 10,000 hours is going to be focused on where do I slot in time for my movement so that I'm sure to get it in. Part of that 10,000 hours is going to be learning to get in as many ounces of water that you need to get in, and so on. So it's like, so many people go into the process of weight loss and weight loss surgery thinking I'll have the surgery and I'll do these, got to do them things kind of sort of however it works in my life. More people say, well, I'm just going to eat like I always ate, just less of it. That is not focused practice on skills you need to learn to live a healthy bariatric lifestyle, to get the goals of maintaining that weight loss, improving your health, and getting out there and engaging in the kind of life that you want to have. So if you want to reach those goals, then you've got to focus on where am I not living up to what I want to? In other words, where am I failing? And going, I'm going to focus the next 2 weeks on improving that one thing. And 10,000 hours, my friends, is a lot of time. So every day we have to dedicate some time to a specific gotta do 'em or a specific skill that you were encouraged by your bariatric team to build. So that's the 10,000 hour rule. In the book, Mental Toughness, the authors point out a lot of great examples of, quote, failures. So Thomas Edison said this about his light bulb invention, and you may have heard this before. He said, "I've not failed 1,000 times. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work." Do you think Thomas Edison, the first attempt he made at getting a light bulb to worked? No. And in his own words, "I failed 1,000 times. I found 10,000 ways that don't work." But he kept at it. He kept at it. He kept at it. Another example is Sonia Richards Ross said that trying and failing was more honorable than not trying, when she said, "Failure, I can live with. Not trying is what I can't." And I don't know who she is, but she's a sports person because she was in this book. But I love what she said. "Failure I can live with. Not trying is what I can't handle." I would adopt that as a mantra for yourself as part of your bariatric lifestyle. You know what? We're gonna fail, friends. So let's open up our minds to it and say, okay, I did that thing. I did that thing I refer to as failure. So I am going to learn from this, and I'm going to put some effort into practicing to get that piece better. And Michael Jordan said, "I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I cannot accept not trying." You know, that really resonates with me. And that resonates with how I approach bariatric lifestyle. It's how I approach my own recovery. It's how I approach my own parenting. It's how I approach my own marriage. I can handle failure, and I've failed a bazillion times. But I'm not going to accept not trying. And the people that I work with, I was talking to a really good friend of mine today, and she's also a therapist, and she's like, you know, people will say about her, "She doesn't play," and neither do I. As long as somebody is putting forth effort, I'm all about that. But if somebody puts lip service to, "I want this different life," but they don't put any effort into it, I'm not the person to work with. So as long as you're going to work hard, I'm your gal. As long as you're going to work hard, I'm going to work hard with you. I'm going to hold your hand every step of the way. I'm going to give you so much praise and congratulations and pat you on the back for the effort, not necessarily the outcome. We got to work toward the outcome through the 10,000-hour rule. Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So as you're building your healthy new bariatric care lifestyle, and there are things you want to try, but maybe they've been intimidating for you in the past, I get that. Find some people to help you do what we say in the 12-step community, which is feel the fear and do it anyway. So I love that. So all kinds of examples of people that pretty much everybody in our country at least knows about, if they follow the news or sports at all. And I don't follow the news or sports very much, but I very much know who almost all of these people are. So failure, let's learn to welcome it. Let's learn to learn from it, and let's learn to apply some focused energy into those areas in which we struggle. That's how you improve, and that's how you overcome the obstacles in your bariatric journey. At the end of the intro to the book, the authors say, "It took you years to get to where you are. It's going to take some time to move from where you are to a more mentally tough you." So true. Also, they say, make sure that you've got something we talk about all the time in post-op life. Make sure you've got the support around you that you need. Surround yourself with people, they say, who are committed to being better. Those words are important. Surround yourself with people who are committed to being better. They go on to say, if the people around you aren't committed to being better, then surround yourself with new people. It's really that serious. Ouch. So what does that mean? You have to divorce your family if they're like, "You do you, boo, but I'm not changing my lifestyle. I'm not worried about my way out. You do you." doesn't mean you have to completely divorce yourself from your family. What it does suggest, though, is you do find a group of like-minded people. You stick with the winners, as they say in the 12-step community. You find the people who want to better themselves in terms of their bariatric lifestyle. They want to get that weight off, keep that weight off, improve their health, and get out there and do the kinds of things that they want to do. It's important that you find those people. Obstacles, they say, and I agree, are here to help you. Problem is, so many of us come into whatever endeavor we're taking on with this sadness or this mindset that, oh God, I don't know why I bother. I try and I try and I fail and I fail. We got to get rid of that mindset. And the real failure, which you've heard and seen in memes on all social media, and it's written in this book also, is the real failure is when you decide to stay down when you get knocked down. And in the book, they give some more examples. Here's some examples of some people who discovered who they were and then committed to being true to themselves about everything else. Meaning, at least how I interpret that is, this is who I am. I am a person who's going to give it to you straight. I am a person who's going to lead by example. I'm not going to ask you to do things that I'm not going to do. If you look on the Barry Aftercare page on our weekly that Laura, thank you, Laura Preston, sets up every Monday, this is what I'm going to be accountable for, and then follow up with that. I am doing that. Laura is doing that. If you're part of the group, are you doing that? If you say you want us to help you with accountability, but you're not putting forth the effort to say this is what I'm going to be accountable for this week, then I have to question your sincere interest in wanting help with accountability. Just saying. So knowing who I am and being true to myself means I'm going to hold myself accountable for what I ask you to do. So if I fail, and when I fail, because I fail pretty much every day in some arena, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to fall into my pity pot for more than 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, I might fall in there sometimes, but I sure as hell am not staying there. I'm going to be true to myself. And in the book, they say, be true to yourself. Never give up when you fail. Work hard. Celebrate the dang failure. It's so important if you want to be successful. So they give examples here, and I'm going to share these with you. Some are sports related, others are not. First one they talk about is Steve Jobs. He founded Apple. Do we not know what Apple is beyond the fruit? Yes, we do. Steve Jobs, first of all, dropped out of college. His first computer barely sold. Steve Jobs was removed from his own company. And yet, Steve Jobs went on to build the first trillion-dollar company in the history of mankind. There's a guy who knew failure. There's a guy who said, I'm not quitting. Oprah Winfrey. We all know who Oprah is. And regardless of how you feel about Oprah or Steve Jobs, understand that Oprah was demoted as a news reporter. She was deemed, and I quote, unfit for television, end quote. She went on to find huge success on the screen, not only as a reporter, but as an actor, as a woman who had a ridiculously, amazingly wonderful talk show. And she's done all kinds of other things, right? So, her success includes so many on-screen successes. And her business, her Oprah world, is worth over $3.5 billion, my friends. Who'd like to be that kind of failure? I would. And then we have Michael Jordan in the sports world. Many of us have heard that he was cut from his high school basketball team. one of the greatest players of all time, cut from the high school basketball team. Michael Jordan missed more shots than most of the people to ever play the game of basketball. Hello, there's failure from one of the most successful basketball players ever, except for, they say, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Michael Jordan went on to be the 5th leading scorer in NBA history. Who wants to be that kind of failure? I do. Not in sports, but failure is a part of the road to success. It requires, as they say in this book, developing some mental toughness and not giving up when the going gets tough. Do you know who holds the title of all-time leading scorer in NBA history? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the one who has more missed shots also than Michael Jordan. How about that? Do you know what he also holds? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also holds the records for the most missed shots in NBA history. These people don't let it stop them. They continue on and they say, I will succeed. The greatest basketball player of all time is also the one who failed the most. Again, they say, failure is a necessary part of success. And they encourage, learn to seek it out. This book is written for 8 to 15-year-olds. What a beautiful thing to learn as a youngster. We might have to work harder to learn it in our advanced years, even if your advanced year is 25. All right. Seek out failure and then celebrate it. Failure is learning all of the things that don't work. Albert Einstein. The more you fail, the closer you get to success. Always be proactive. I love this part of the book. Listen to this carefully. Always be proactive. You, and you alone, my friends, are responsible for your success. Nobody can do it for you. Your surgeon is not responsible for your success. Your dietitian is not responsible for your success. Your trainer is not responsible for your success. Your mental health provider is not responsible for your success or your failures. You are responsible for all of your actions. You are responsible for every choice you make. And in the book they say on and off the court. I'm going to say in every area of your life. Take responsibility for the failures, but more importantly, and they say this to these young athletes, most importantly, take responsibility for your success. So often I tell people, when you have a non-scale victory or a scale victory, but more so the non-scale victories, take credit for that. Celebrate it big. Because we are so hard on ourselves that we have to give ourselves permission to celebrate big. When we've worked hard for something and we've done it, we've achieved some success in that area, whether it's getting in our protein or getting in our water or taking our vitamins every day for a week, whatever it is. Thank yourself when things go right. You are doing the work. You're doing the doing that results in things going right. The authors say if you don't get anything else from this book, take responsibility for everything. Let me repeat that. Take responsibility for everything. You're an adult. If your spouse or your partner says something snarky to you and you snark back and you blame them, you're on the wrong track. You snarked back. Take responsibility for it. Take responsibility for if you said, I choose not to work out today. Take responsibility for saying, I did choose to work out today. I'm watching, there's a beautiful bluebird in my yard. Oh, it's so pretty. Not a blue jay. They're kind of nasty little fellas. But I have a family of bluebirds that's lived in this birdhouse. Oh, they're beautiful. Okay. Thank yourself when things go right. Take responsibility for everything. Make your journey one that depends very little on outside favors or outside influence. The best way to do this, says the authors, and I agree, is hard work. Love failure and put yourself in a position to succeed. Translated, quit self-sabotaging. Quit self-sabotaging. Put yourself in a position to succeed. And of course, take responsibility for everything. Bariatric patients. We've done lots of episodes on self-sabotage. If you're going to the grocery store hungry, you're self-sabotaging, not putting yourself in a position to succeed. If you keep a lot of junk food that triggers you in your house or your office desk or your car, you're not putting yourself in a position to succeed. If you don't take healthy food with you when you travel, or if you leave work and you're hungry and you've got a long drive home, you're not putting yourself in a position to succeed. Choices, responsibility. You say you're interested, what's your effort in following through? Ooh, 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 ooh. All right. That's just the beginning. So far, it's pretty easy to see how this book written for kids is absolutely relevant to everything we talked about in bariatric care and everything related to your bariatric lifestyle. He talks about 3 major mental toughness roadblocks. One is your current beliefs, one are your peers, and one are other authority figures. Now remember, he's written this for kids, but let's put this in adult situation. A big mental toughness roadblock are your current beliefs. Hallelujah. How often do you hear me and others in the bariatric community talk about your stinking thinking, your negative self-talk? This is critical. If kids can learn to develop positive self-talk in their young years, hallelujah. It's a struggle, as you know, if you've got a constant loop of a negative self-talk playing in the back of your mind. You have to work really hard, put forth a lot of effort to stop that tape and make a new one. But your current beliefs, your current self-talk, your beliefs are put out there by your self-talk. I suck. I don't know why I try. Oh my God. Oh, I'm such an idiot. That tells me what your current beliefs are. So you better get to work on and stay working on part of that 10,000 hours on, I can do this. It's hard work. I will put forth effort. Making that self-talk very, very positive. So your current beliefs are critical to developing the mental toughness you need to get where you want to go, regardless of what area it is in. Your peers. So there's a quote in the book by Steve Harvey. If 9 of your friends are broke, you'll be number 10. If 9 of your friends are regaining their weight after bariatric surgery, you'll be number 10. If 9 of your friends are living their best and healthiest post-op life, you will be number 10. Are the people you surround yourself with on the same page as you? We touched on this earlier in this episode. You need to be hanging around with like-minded people. People who are not going to sit and whine about how hard it is. Yeah, you can give yourself a few minutes here and there to say, oh my God, this is so hard. Absolutely it is. Are the people you hanging around saying, yeah, it is, what are we going to do about it? Or are they saying, yeah, it's hard, let's quit? Your peers are a huge roadblock if they're not on the same trajectory, mindset, path, willingness to put forth the effort. Better look at who you're hanging with, my friends. And then the third roadblock to your success are other authority figures. Now in the book, it's, for kids, it's teachers, it's coaches, it's older siblings, that sort of thing. But for a post-op, authority figures could be naysayers, your family members. I don't know why you're trying this. You never do, you never succeed at anything. How long before you gain that weight back? Naysayers, right? These people have had influence in your life, the people in your family. What other people have influence on your life? Maybe it's social media. Do your research. That's what he says in the book. Do your research. Don't look at what people say, look at what they do. Look at the outcomes of their actions. If their results are the results that you want, heck yeah, follow their advice. If the results aren't what you want, then don't. The author says it's really that simple. So check out who you're following in the bariatric community and really look. Are the dietitians you're following, are they living healthy lifestyle? Or are they just telling you what to do? Are the trainers you're working with living a healthy lifestyle, or are they just telling you what to do? Are the influencers living what they're telling you to do, or living a healthy bariatric care lifestyle? If they are, follow them. Do what they're doing. If they're projecting, do as I say, not as I do, that's not who you want to follow. So do your research. You want to follow and hang around with people who are on the same page as you. Then the author of this book talks about some myths for specifically related to having mental toughness. And I love this, and I think this relates to the bariatric world very, very closely. The first myth is some people are born with it. He says that every successful person he talks with says they weren't born with it. They worked harder than most people. Mental toughness isn't something you inherit. Yeah, we all have personality traits and things like that. They are influenced by genetics and also by culture, nature, and nurture. In the book, he says, just ask the pros yourself. Learn their stories. Read about people who have been successful with their weight loss journeys. Read about people who have successful startup businesses if you want to start up a business. Read about people who have healthy marriages if you want to have a healthy marriage. That's how it's done. You learn from people who are doing it. But the pros in the sports world, which he's talking about, he says, learn their stories. Pay attention to how many of them say they made a choice to put in the work nobody else was willing to do. He says there's no born with it gene. There's only a worked for it gene. And let me tell you, I love that saying because it pertains very much to me. I was not born with the level of intelligence or the ability to memorize or the ability to learn things that a lot of people are. But I'll tell you what I was willing to do. I was willing to work harder at it. I was willing to spend more time on the homework. I was willing to spend more time reading the books. I was willing to spend more time studying for the exams. I wasn't born with it. Yeah, I was born with enough of it, but not to the level of most of my peers. And I can tell you that because if you look at my test scores on the national exams that people have to take to get into these programs, I score average, if that. Whereas most people who get into PhD programs and et cetera score much higher. I had to look at programs that had a score that I barely met to even apply. So it's true, but I'll tell you, I'm willing to work harder. I'm willing to work harder. Anybody could have a podcast. I've got 278 episodes. That's a lot of content. I'm willing to work harder than people who say I want a podcast but don't do the work to have it. Same for you. What do you work harder at than other people? Maybe it's things at your job. Maybe it's things as being a parent. Maybe it's things of running a committee. Maybe it's organizing events. So, what do you work harder at than other people? And then you enjoy the success of that. But I love that. There's no born with a gene, there's only a worked for it gene. And the authors say, and I say this to you all the time, you have to choose. They say to become mentally tough, but I say you have to choose to not only be mentally tough, but succeed at whatever you want to succeed at. Another myth is they'll figure it out. A lot of times we say about young adults or children, oh, they'll figure it out. But it's not true. Listen to what's worked for people who are where you want to be. Again, a lot of people say if you want to be a millionaire, look at what people did to save their money to become millionaires. If you want to be a good spouse, listen to what people who are a good spouse have done. If you want to be a good parent, then you listen to good parenting skills and techniques. So if you don't know what you don't know. So you're not just going to figure it out. Maybe you do by context clues or whatever. But most people have to listen to people who are further along the journey than where they are themselves. So find somebody who's 10, 15, 20 years out from bariatric surgery, and they're living the kind of life that you want to live, and ask them, what do you do? How have you done this? What have you done? I'm 35 years into recovery from addiction. I can tell you some things that I've done. I had to ask people when I was a week into recovery, a year into recovery, 2 years into recovery, how have you done this? How have you done this? I listened, I asked, I modeled their behavior. Now, Maya Angelou is famous for saying, when you know better, you do better. Some people do and some people don't. You have to choose. You have to learn some skills for better communication, for setting boundaries, for standing up for yourself. All of those things. So you make the effort to do that or you don't. So the third myth is some people think training doesn't work. Well, Connie, I tried that changing my self-talk thing for a week. It didn't work. Well, no, Sherlock. Remember the 10,000 hour rule? Training works. So the myth that it doesn't is not true. Studies have shown, and this is in the book Mental Toughness, that the mind controls check this out, the mind controls 90+% of our reality. As you thinketh, so you are. I don't know who said that. But Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Albert Einstein said, and remember, he was one of the smartest people to ever live. I love this. Your imagination is your preview of life's coming attractions. We're going to talk about this more in the next episode when we talk about visualization. Your imagination is your preview of life's coming attractions. Your mind controls 90% of your reality. If I think I can, I can. Stephen Covey, in The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about the first and the second creation of things. The first is what you imagine. Do you, as a post-op, imagine yourself living a healthy bariatric care lifestyle at a healthier weight with a healthier body doing fun things? Or do you think about and fear and focus on regain? The mind, 90%. The mind controls 90% of our reality. And because of that, and because this book, Mental Toughness for Young Athletes, is written about sports, they note in there that most professional and college sports teams have a sports psychologist. Come on, bariatric programs, let's catch up. Let's catch up. The psychology, the 90% of our mind, predicting our reality. We need to work on our mind. And the last part of this myth thing he talks about is, do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? The difference between them being, one says, I know what I need to know and onward and forward. Another one says, I know quite a bit or I know nothing, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow. People with a fixed mindset are not going to grow very much because they think they know it all. People who have an open mind to learning, even if it's from those failures, are going to work harder. They're going to get further. They're going to reach their goals. In this book, I'm going to read this. The one thing that's going to help you most, and he's talking to young kids, is being honest with yourself. Hello, bariatric patients. How honest are you with yourself about how much you exercise, about how much sugar you eat, about how much protein you get in, about how positive your mindset is or isn't, about the people you hang around with, and if they have a positive mindset only. But back to the book. The one thing that's going to help you the most is being honest with yourself. You have to approach your truth-telling from a growth mindset perspective, not a fixed mindset perspective. A growth mindset says that wherever you are right now is only temporary. If you suck, you won't suck forever. If you work at anything, you can change it. If you work at anything, you can change it. Approach everything with this growth mindset. If I struggle with negative self-talk, if I work at this, I can improve at it. If I suck at getting in all my protein, if I work at it, I can improve on it. If I suck at meal prepping, if I work at it, I can improve it. If I suck at my attitude toward movement, if I work at it, I can get better at it. Where is your mindset? Do you have a growth mindset? Back to Kobe Bryant. He said, learn the basics and do them over and over and over and over and over again. Bariatric patients. The bariatric basics are what I call the gotta do-ems. Learn the basics. Do them over and over and over and over again. So many professionals in all the different disciplines will tell you when you get off track, get back to the basics. Eat the protein first. Drink the amount of water you're supposed to be drinking. Take the bariatric specific vitamins. Get some movement in every day. Get back to basics. Kobe Bryant, learn the basics. Do them over and over and over and over and over. 10,000 hour mindset, friends. 10,000 hours. Will Smith, make a choice, decide, and focus on what it's going to be, who you're going to be, and how you're going to do it. Make a choice. I am going to be a healthy post-op patient. Decide, no matter what it takes, no matter if I have to put in 20,000 hours, I am going to be a healthy post-op patient as defined by I have a healthier weight for my body. I have improved my health to the degree that I am able to, given my genetics and history, etc. I am doing the things that I enjoy doing. Make a choice. Decide. Focus on what it's going to be. Set your criteria. Who you're going to be. I am going to be a person who puts forth the effort to the areas I say I'm interested in. A healthy body, improved biological, fewer health comorbidities, doing things that I enjoy doing, learning to stand up for myself, learning to set boundaries with other people, learning to have a healthy self-talk, learning to have a healthy conversation, learning boundaries, learning communication skills. That's who I'm going to be and how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it by focusing part of my 10,000 hours on protein first. I'm going to do it by focusing some of those 10,000 hours on eating every 3 to 4 hours, or eating 3 meals a day and a snack in between, or eating 3 meals a day, no snack, whatever you've been taught to do at your bariatric program. I'm going to do it by monitoring how much water I get in. I'm going to do it by checking off when I take my specific bariatric specific vitamins every day. Okay? That's how. And Norman Vincent Peale says, I love this, by the yard, it's hard. But by the inch, it's a cinch. In other words, quit looking 6 years out into the future and saying, well, what if I regain? What if I say, just for today, I'm going to focus on these two gotta do'ems, the water and the protein first. By the yard, it's hard. By the inch, it's a cinch. You got the choice. Do it by the inch. One step at a time, one day at a time. So now I'm going to mention some of the core topics in this book. I'm not going into all of them. There's a couple in there that I don't think are as relevant to the post-op life, but many of them are. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and this is a prelude into our next session, which you're not going to want to miss. But these 6 topics are, surprise, surprise, your mindset. Then we're going to talk about your subconscious mind. We don't talk too much about that in bariatric care, but this is really good what he talks about and how he teaches kids to have how to train their subconscious so that it shows up for them when they're in difficult situations. I love this. I think this may be new for some of us. And visualization, one of my favorite tools of all time. Goals, which we've talked about. We're not going to go too into detail about that, but we'll talk some about that. Watching the pros. Watching the pros. We'll talk about what that means as a bariatric patient. And meditation. These are skills that professionals who work with children know that these kids need to develop early on in order to do well in these sports without succumbing to the, oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm a failure. I can't do it. But fighting through that and having the mental toughness that if this is what they want, then this is going to be what they're willing to do, and how to overcome that and set themselves up to keep going. As post-ops, we need this information because it's so easy to give up and to say, oh, I'm falling back into those old habits. Yet again, that doesn't need to be the end of the story. It does not need to be the end of the story. And these skills and these tools that we're teaching young athletes and young people anywhere, if they're learning these, praise God for the people teaching them to you. But we can use these skills and these tools in our bariatric care journeys. And your take-home messages today are, you've got to put in the time. There's no way around it. These athletes, these people in life, Steve Jobs, Oprah, they put in the time. They didn't just put in the time, they put in additional time. They were willing to put in more time than the other people. And so that's largely how a lot of people end up being the ones who, quote, succeed. So you've got to put in the time. Remember this. Needs to be up on everybody's bulletin board. At your level of effort, how much work you're putting into this really tells everybody in your world your level of interest. You may be saying, oh yeah, I'm going to be a healthy post-op, but you're not doing the work. So therefore, it's not likely that you will be that. Your level of effort, how much work you're putting into this, tells us really how much interest you have in it. So how much effort are you putting into what you're saying is important to you? I can't answer that, but I would encourage you to do what this author says and be honest with yourself. Are your words matching your actions? Are your actions supporting your words? And finally, remember, this is your health, this day and every day. So I really want to challenge you, and I want to encourage you to get in there, get in that bariatric care. You know, people tell me so often, Connie, people don't want to pay for what you're offering. Well, maybe if you pay for what I'm offering, which is encouragement, which are valuable tools, which is the support and encouragement of post-ops who are living long-term healthy lifestyles, it's meditation skills, it's yoga, it's weightlifting, it's balancing exercises, it's cooking demonstrations, it's everyday people on there suggesting to you things that are working for them in their healthy lifestyle. If you're not a member of Berry Aftercare, I am really going to challenge you to get in there and become active in this group. We can and will help you if you're willing to put forth the effort. Think about how much money you spend on cute workout clothes to go to the gym or your classes. More power to you. I'm all about that. But let's put some money into our mental health as well and learning the skills and tools. I'm glad you listened to this podcast. It will always and forever be free because not everybody actually can afford to be part of a group like that, but many can. So you've got to prioritize what's important to you. So I'm going to encourage you, sign up with a buddy and see if your ability to follow through just doesn't improve if you show up and be part of an active part of the group. Until then, remember, share this podcast with anybody because although it does apply to bariatric lifestyle, it also applies to everything in your life that's worth working toward. And if you've got young athletes or young kids aspiring to be on the stage or young kids aspiring to play the piano really well, get them involved in learning these skills. Next week, I'm going to give you short exercises because the exercises they give in this book are for kids. They're 5 or 10 minutes long. We can do those things, my friends. All right. Until then, remember, it's your health. It's your responsibility. When? This day and every day. I will see you next time. Till then, know that you're worth it. All right. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.